Lebanon is usually introduced as a warning, crisis, borders, empty hotels, another headline to scroll past. But the country on the ground tells a stranger story. The sea opens at Beirut. Roman stones rise from the valley. Sacred cliffs hold villages above the clouds. A waterfall falls through a mountain. Snow cuts across the high passes. And old ports keep facing the Mediterranean. This is the Lebanon most headlines never slow down to see. Beirut announces itself before you even touch the ground. The aircraft drops over the Mediterranean, and the city appears in a narrow band between water and mountain, dense, bright, and impossible to reduce to a single headline. At the Corniche, the day gathers at the edge of the sea. Pigeon rocks rise offshore like weathered gates, while apartment towers, mosque domes, and evening traffic press close behind. This is the rhythm of Beirut, arrival and departure, ruin and repair, noise and sudden beauty. By sunset, the coast turns gold, and for a few minutes the city looks less like a capital under pressure and more like what it has always been, a port that refuses to stop receiving the world. That is why Beirut feels like the country's first threshold. An airport runway, a crowded coast, an old rock formation, and a skyline still under construction all sit close together. Nothing here is settled, but almost everything is in motion. Beirut also carries the present tense of the country. When travelers return, they pass through the same airport that appears in the news whenever the summer season feels uncertain. city does not hide that tension. It folds it into ordinary movement, into taxis, sea air, construction noise, and people making an evening out of whatever the day has left them. The Qadisha Valley does not reveal itself all at once. It is a long fracture through the Mount Lebanon range, a canyon of terraces, cliffs, roads, and villages holding to the slopes. For centuries, this valley offered shelter to monks, hermits, and communities who wanted distance from the coast and protection from passing empires. The geography explains why. Cliffs fold inward. Villages sit close to churches and fields. Roads trace the rim as if they are negotiating with the mountain. Nearby, the Cedars remain one of the country's great symbols. But here the valley itself carries the story, a landscape where faith was not separate from survival and where isolation became a form of endurance. What makes Qadisha powerful is not only its beauty, it is the way the valley turns geography into refuge. cliffs do not simply surround the villages, they protect them, isolate them, and give them a kind of silence that the coast can never offer. Baatara is a waterfall, but that word is almost too simple for what happens here. Water drops through open air, then disappears into a limestone sinkhole carved by time far older than any road leading to it. In spring, snowmelt turns the fall into a white rope falling through the Cave of Three Bridges. The drama is not only the height, though the drop is more than 250 meters. It is the sense of a landscape still unfinished, where every arch changes the scale and every shadow makes the chasm feel deeper. Lebanon is often described through cities, borders, and conflicts. Baatara belongs to a different measure of time, one shaped by erosion, rain, and stone. Also reminds you how young human history can feel beside the work of water. Temples, cities, and fortresses rise and fall, but here the main architect is gravity. The chasm keeps deepening, and the waterfall keeps writing the same sentence into stone. In the Baatara Valley, the Roman world left behind a statement so large it still feels almost impossible. Baalbek is not just a ruin. It is scale turned into politics, religion, and stone. The Temple of Bacchus stands with columns that make the people beneath them feel temporary. The sanctuary still reads as a grid of walls, courtyards, and surviving pillars, precise even after centuries of weather and invasion. Anjar belongs to the wider Baatara story, but Baalbek dominates this route through the valley. Here, empire was not subtle. It wanted to be seen from far away, remembered after conquest, and measured against the mountains themselves. The longer you look at Baalbek, the less it feels like a ruin, and the more it feels like a challenge. Every column asks how much ambition a civilization can place into stone, and how much of that ambition can survive after the civilization itself has gone. These stones make the current border story feel smaller, but not less real. North of here, ceasefire lines and diplomatic language keep shifting. The columns do something different. They measure time in centuries and remind us that every anxious season is also only one layer in a much older place. Tripoli wears its history in layers. The citadel rises above the old city, and below it, the skyline breaks into minarets, rooftops, courtyards, and narrow streets. The city is easier to read than it is to simplify. Crusader, Mamluk, Ottoman, and modern Lebanon all press into the same hills and streets. A mosque dome appears beside apartment blocks. A fortress watches over traffic. The old town holds its pattern even as the city grows around it. This is not the polished Lebanon of resort brochures, and it is not the flattened Lebanon of crisis headlines either. Tripoli is rougher, older, and more complicated. Its beauty comes from accumulation, from the way every century has left something behind without fully erasing what came before. Patience, because its details do not arrive as a single postcard. The old city is a sequence of thresholds, fortress to mosque, roofline to alley, stone wall to busy street. Each transition makes the city feel less preserved than actively layered. Tripoli is too often treated as a footnote, but the city has its own gravity. The citadel, the rooftops, the mosques, and the old market streets reveal a northern Lebanon that feels lived in rather than staged. Its roughness is part of its truth, and its layers make the country's north impossible to ignore. Byblos is one of those places where the phrase ancient city can sound too small. The harbour is modest, almost intimate, but it has carried a history far larger than its size. Phoenician traders, crusader builders, Ottoman sailors, and modern visitors have all looked out over this same water. Today, boats rock in the port. The coast slides past in clean blue lines, and the town continues to live with its ruins rather than simply display them. Even the modern work of keeping the beach clean belongs to the story. Byblos is not sealed under glass. It is a working coastal town with memory built into the stones, a place where the sea is not a backdrop, but the reason the city exists. Also gives Byblos a different kind of time. Waves keep returning to the same stones while the town changes around them. That repetition is part of the place. Trade, worship, conquest, tourism, and ordinary coastal life, all passing through one small harbour. Byblos is one of the places where Lebanon can still speak to visitors without raising its voice. The harbour is small, the ruins are close, and the town moves at a human scale. After the weight of the news cycle, that scale matters. It lets history become walkable again. rises quickly. The road into Kfar Debian and the high mountain resorts changes the country's mood in less than a day of travel. On rooftops and roads. Chalets sit under fog. Slopes that feel remote from Beirut are still part of the same narrow country. This vertical compression is one of Lebanon's surprises. Sea, city, valley, and winter mountains all stacked close together. Faraya and Mzaar turn the journey into altitude. This is Lebanon as a mountain country, not only a Mediterranean one. Are quieter here, but they carry another kind of tension, the feeling of a small landscape holding more climates and identities than its size should allow. This high country is not an escape from Lebanon's complexity. It is another expression of it. Short distance, the country changes altitude, weather, and mood, compressing landscapes that elsewhere would belong to separate journeys. returns the journey to the coast, but the mood is different from Beirut. The scale is smaller, the water closer, and the history more exposed. The Phoenician seawall still marks the edge between town and Mediterranean, a line of stone built for protection as the waves keep testing it. Boats leave the marina, waterfront buildings face the wind, and the old wall turns the shoreline into a piece of infrastructure from another age. Nearby, Mseilha belongs to the same northern corridor of fortresses and crossings, but Batroun carries the ending at sea level. Lebanon faces outward here, defended by stone, shaped by trade, and still looking west across the water. Batroun is a fitting final coast because it looks outward without losing its age. The wall, the boats, and the waterfront all point in the same direction, toward a sea that brought trade, danger, migration, and memory to the shore again and again. Batroun closes the journey with coastline rather than conclusion. The sea walls, old streets, and fortress approach do not solve the country around them. They simply prove that Lebanon is still more than its crisis language. It is a road, a shore, a ruin, a meal, and a light that changes before you are ready. Please like the video, comment with the place that stayed with you, and subscribe for the next documentary. Lebanon is often introduced through uncertainty, borders, ceasefires, empty hotel rooms, and arrivals that never come. Those realities matter, but they are not the whole country. Between Beirut's coast, Qadisha's cliffs, Baalbek's stones, Tripoli's old city, Byblos's harbour, the high snowfields, and Batroun's seawall, another Lebanon keeps appearing. It is older than the news cycle, smaller than the myths built around it, and more resilient than any single story can hold.